Hi, this is Darren Drew from D. Drew Guitars. Here's the same Greg Rich Recording King custom shop banjo that I've been working on. Um, you can see it's got hand painted signs on the pearloid fretboard, which are very nice. This is a flame maple neck and transparent red on it, which you can see the flaming through there. Make some more light. You can see the flaming in there. So what I've initially done with this is I have sanded the neck, bare wood down to, like 800 grit, wet and dry paper, but I did it dry. And then I mixed some leather dye red in with clear gloss lacquer and sprayed it on. And you want to do as few as coats as possible for one good reason. So you want to have your leather dye mixture with the red about where you want it. So you only have to do like one or two coats to get the desired color. The reason for that is where you have this line here taped off, you're going to make a stair step because this part is taped off, the red part is not. So when you spray on the lacquer, it's going to make a little stair step right here, in which you can't have that on your end finished product. So you want to do it in maybe a couple coats of the red mixed with the lacquer, and you'll have a little bit of a stair step there, but you will be able to sand that out. And I use like wet and dry 800 grit to start out with even. I used to use 400, but I'm down to 800. That's plenty fast enough to sand it down to where you want to get it. And I'll put on, a couple coats with the dye in it, get it to my desired color, and then I will wet sand it a touch to get like this little edge off. And if I have any dark or lighter spots in the finish, I'll wet sand it just a little bit to make it as even as possible. And then I'll put on at least 6 coats of clear lacquer, high gloss, as thick as I can, basically without running. And I'll do it spraying, with the little tiny pot gun, you could say. Just a little airbrush gun, straight, clear gloss. It's made for guitars, so it's lacquer that will heat, take the heat, take the cold, and move accordingly. Because wood's always moving, expanding, concentrating, stuff like that. So that's the type of lacquer I use, and I'll put at least 6 coats on. I'll wet sand it with the 800 grit, and I'll use a water mixture with some like dish soap in it. And what the dish soap does is it makes it slipperier. But the main thing it will do is it will make the lacquer that I'm sanding off not stick to my sandpaper. Because if it starts to really stick to your sandpaper, it's going to make it wear out twice as fast for one. But it's also going to start putting scratches in your finish that you're going to have to sand back out. And you don't want to keep sanding because you don't want to sand back into the red dyed part of the lacquer. Lacquer does melt back into itself, which is good, but that makes it also so that you're going to sand back into it sooner and faster also. So you have to be very careful of that. And when you're sanding it, keep it very, very wet and wipe it off constantly with a good, clean, soft towel. You'll even want to watch your fingernails as you're sanding because you could put scratches in it with just a fingernail alone. So you got to be very careful. Your work surface has to be very, very clean with no little tiny anything on it because it will leave scratches, which you don't want to do and have to sand out later, especially if you get down into the red dyed lacquer part, because then you're pretty much screwing yourself. So you don't want to do that. Like I say, keep it very, very wet and constantly drying it off to see exactly where you need to sand and where you don't. And if you can see on here, you can see the shiny spots and where it's sanded. Okay, see right there, I need to sand some more. So, but up here, I don't need to sand more. So that's what you need to look out for, is where you need to sand, where you don't. And there's some spots like up here, you can see where I need to sand. You just have to have a good eye and some good lighting. And this pretty much is, you can see in the shiny part of where the light's reflecting off, that is pretty darn good all the way through here. And then once I go through the 800 and I get everything sanded like I would like, I'll go down to 1,000, then I'll go to 1,200, then I'll go to 1,500, then I'll go to 2,000, and then I'll go to 3,000, and then I'll go to some sanding pads that look like this, they get down to 8,000 grit. You can use those wet by hand. I would always suggest by hand with those, because you can put them on a palm sander, but that's going to leave the little swirl marks, which you don't want. But you can use those really wet over the top of this whole thing, down to like 8,000 grit foam pad finish. And then I'll take it to a buffing wheel at work that has 2 different coarseness wheels, and it will make this thing a super, super high gloss finish that is super reflective, and it's going to look super deep. But then that's a lacquer finish if you're doing it correctly. But it's got to have minimum, 16, 24 coats of clear lacquer. You end up sanding half of it off. It's a technique that I've been doing since I've been like 5 years old. And, my father taught me when I was a kid doing remote control stuff. And it's a process. It's not a rattle can where you can just do a quick paint job finish. They look like crap. They may look okay, but you know what? This is going to be a very expensive banjo. It's got to be done correctly and have some cool depth and let the wood shine through and, look better than everything else out there, if you ask me. So it's a process. You can't do it overnight. It takes a lot of time, a lot of spraying, a lot of sanding, a lot of prep work. But your end result, I will show you in the next video, how great it's going to come out looking. And, you got to have patience, take your time, and, enjoy yourself and have fun, because your finished product is going to be great. Especially, the accomplishment of doing an expensive Greg Rich custom shop Recording King banjo like this. It's an honor to be a part of it, and I enjoy doing this type of expensive work. That's what I live for. So please like, please subscribe. I'll teach you some more stuff later. And this is Darren Drew saying thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you. Bye.